there. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Getting Inside the Right Male Mind. I'm Lisa Shield.
And I'm Benjamin Shield.
And we are so happy to be able to spend this time with you. Today, we have a topic that I think is a lot of fun, and it's the secret to having great relationships, which is how to have those amazing rom-com conversations.
Yeah, and great dates.
Right, and great dates too, which will lead to great relationships. We believe that humor is one of the most important aspects of any relationship. And if you're not laughing and having fun, what are you doing?
I think except for very, very few occasions of special happenings in our lives, every day we've had laughter.
And even I remember when you and I wound up at the emergency when we went to Sedona. Do you remember?
Oh, we had a great time.
We actually got Benjamin got the most beautiful letter
both did,
from one of the nurses there, just saying that that we had restored her faith, and she had just recently gotten divorced or was going through a divorce. And she said that we had restored her faith in love. And when she was ready, she was going to go out and look for her next partner. But we were sitting and laughing and having a wonderful time. It wasn't how we expected to spend the vacation.
No, but it was fun.
It was great. It was just, the vacation was just an excuse to spend some time together. And so we had a ball, and I think we would remember that more than going for a hike or doing something else.
Yeah. And I think, when we all think back of our most memorable dates, it's the dates we've had, deep communication, but also it's been laced with laughter and fun, creativity, spontaneity, just playfulness.
Well, and I think that what people don't realize is that you can be funny and deep at the same time. With your humor, there is such depth to your humor that sometimes it's deeper than the deepest conversation. You can say more. I remember when we were just recently working on a project together, and we were walking back to the house, and I said, "Thank you so much for helping me, because it's so hard to be creative in a vacuum." And you said, "You know who else says that?" And I said, "No, who?" And you said,
"Dust."
Dust. So I first want to start with, sometimes people will say, well, Benjamin's funny. Like, it's easy to be funny with him and have those rom-com conversations because he is so funny. But I always say, a lot of your former partners didn't find you funny.
Right. And it made me less funny because there's no reason to try to be playful and funny if it's not coming back to you.
Yeah, I mean, there are women who you said earlier that you've gone on dates with that you just don't feel funny around them.
Yeah. And, and the dates that I remember and the relationships that I remember are the ones where we've just had fun. It's been playful. There has been humor. And, I have to say that humor builds trust and safety. It's hard not to, it's like humor and playfulness and banter is the antithesis of not having trust and safety. You just build that connection. And when I think of all the relationships, all the dates I've been on, the most memorable ones and the ones that I smile about, the ones where we've smiled a lot. So
which is funny because you were so serious on our first date.
Well, I think on a first date, the most important thing a man could do is prove he's not an axe murderer. But also, I think I was careful just to see if playfulness would come back, because I didn't want to seem like, just like um, insincere, just
Right.
cracking jokes and having fun if you were a deathly serious person. But right away, when we were talking about what we were looking for, you said, well, and I'm paraphrasing, I've done a lot of work, and I'm ready to meet a great guy and have fun.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I took my profile down.
Right. That same night,
Yeah.
I realized that I had been taking, I've always had a wonderful sense of humor, but I realized that for so long, I had been taking life so seriously. And I thought that having connection meant that I would have these very deep, serious, intense conversations with someone. And suddenly I realized that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be deep and serious and intense all the time. That just wasn't a fun way to be. And I also had a friend at the time who was very playful and a lot of fun to be around. And I watched how men responded to her playfulness and her humor and how attractive that was. I also saw how she would attract the attention of great men because she was so playful, and that my seriousness was not very alluring to men. So it was like a light bulb had gone off for me. And I just decided that I didn't want to take life seriously I'm still a very deep person. I don't think I lack depth. I don't think I live on the surface of things, but it's a choice to be positive and have humor. And I'm enjoying life so much more this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about, I'm sure women want to know, but they're saying I go out on these dates and the guys just aren't funny. And, it's we don't click. And if there is a really funny guy, well, then I feel that connection. But if the man isn't funny, I don't feel funny. So can you speak to that, honey?
Well, it's miserable to be with someone, no matter how interesting, how accomplished, how sensitive, um, uh, all of those things. If there's no humor, it's just, it's just, it's missing a main component of
But what if the
relationship.
guy isn't funny? What if you go on a date and the guy just isn't funny?
Well, ideally, the other person would be somewhat playful, not overly playful, so it's too goofy, but just to see if, well, maybe he's very serious that night. Maybe he wants to impress you. Maybe he's afraid of cracking a joke and having him fall on his face. So, and really not knowing who's sitting
Mhm.
across from him at the table. So if the woman could show a little bit of humor, a lightness, a playfulness,
Mhm.
and see if that elicits something in him.
And how would she do that?
Well, she could just first smile, lean in, wink occasionally. Um, you know, I think laughing is the best entry into playfulness.
Uh-huh. Or maybe tell a funny story
Mhm.
about something that happened during the day, or something just lighthearted.
A lightness of being. Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that a lot of women, myself included, have felt this pressure that, to be flirtatious in the way that we watched, other women like growing up, our girlfriends, and, being provocative. I
Mhm.
mean, when I think of flirtation, I think of a little bit of game playing. I know it's not always intended that way, but when I think of being flirtatious in the way I saw women being that
Mhm.
way growing up, I saw it as sexually provocative,
Mhm.
leading men on, um, gaminess. There was a manipulation to
Well,
it.
the difference is that provocative behavior is a behavior. It's a
Mhm.
performance.
Mhm.
Where playfulness is just the opposite. It's not a performance. It's all the performance barriers drop, and it's just two people having fun. It's almost like two puppies on a date, where
Mhm.
they're just, meeting each other and beginning to play and wrestle, and they have a great time.
Mhm. Yeah. So how are some ways that a woman could be play? I mean, I think one of the things that I did when I was dating, because I had been so serious and so intense, was that I made a decision to be playful
Mhm.
and to not let conversations get heavy or deep. It doesn't mean that I couldn't have a deep conversation. I actually was great at that. But I stopped, I would not go into that. So I had ways of diverting the conversation into more playful territory. Like one of the things that I do, because I'm not funny or comical, I'm not witty like you are. I mean, I don't know too many people who are, honestly. Just so everybody knows, like I have an iPhone full, my notes folder on my iPhone is full of all the jokes that Benjamin makes. I write them down so that we don't forget them because they're so funny. But I'm more of a sidekick. And I know that. Like I have adopted my role as a sidekick and I'm very proud of it, but I know how to egg you on. And I can be very ironic. Like you'll say something and I'll say like, what's up with that? Or where did you get that from? But I'll make a funny, like I'll answer a question with a question that will egg you on rather than going directly into a very serious, conversation.
And I think an important thing is that you laugh at my jokes. And
Yes.
we were talking to someone from Los Angeles, or who had lived in Los Angeles. They said, in Los Angeles, if someone tells someone a joke, instead of laughing, they say, "That's so funny."
Yes, they do. I thought that was hysterical.
So, actually genuinely laughing and enjoying,
Mhm.
it just brings it makes another person feel safe to take chances with
Mhm.
humor and
Yeah.
playfulness.
Yeah. And I think that one of the problems is where we stop ourselves from being playful is that when we feel nervous or we really like somebody, we're very attracted to that person, we get in our heads and we start overthinking things. We feel nervous and then we want to say the right thing. And all the spontaneousness goes out the window, like that flow, because, that life is an improv. It's like improvisation is a wonderful thing. If somebody feels too stiff, there are improv classes.
And that's why interview questions on a date could
Mhm.
be a death knell.
Yeah, stultifying.
It's stultifying,
Yeah.
because there's no playfulness in, you know, um, and what kind of job do you have, and how far are you from work, and do you rent or own, or all. There's no playfulness in that.
Well, and I actually encourage women, if a man is asking you those kinds of questions, you can also come back with a little bit of a lighthearted, playful response rather than just answering those questions. If somebody said to me, what do you do for a living? I would have I could come up with a playful comeback to that, like, oh my God, where do I start?
Well, when I'm at a party, like a cocktail party, and I really don't want to talk about
Mhm.
what I do, because it's what I do every day.
Mhm.
Um, and what do you do for a living? So, I'm an auditor for the Internal Revenue Service. And tell me, what do you do for a living? And they suddenly they migrate towards the onion dip.
Right. but I was listening to something. What was I listening to? And there was somebody asked about what this person did, and she was like, oh, I'm a pole dancer. What do you do? So it was meant to be playful and fun rather than something that was just this serious conversation. So you can bring some playfulness and humor. You don't have to go into serious conversations, even if the person across from you, is asking you serious questions. So you can just test the waters a little bit and be fun. Take a little bit of a risk, to say, oh, I'm a pole dancer. You should see my moves. And then see how the guy responds, right? Like, and some of you would say, oh my God, I couldn't say something like that because then, he'd think I want to have sex with him or something. That's not true.
But if there's humor with it,
right.
And I think one of the things that just as a warning, that if one of the people at the table says a joke that you may not get or you may take seriously, the worst thing you could do is to try to analyze a joke.
Right.
What did you mean by that? And when you said this, it's just just like you just want to put napkins together and make a noose.
See, there you go. Oh my God. So some things you can do, like if somebody says, well, what do you do for a living? You could jokingly say, well, I'll tell you what I do if you tell me what you do. So even something like that can be playful. And first of all, it's provocative, it's teasing, and you're answering a question with a question. And that's another way of being playful. So
like I'll show you my S core if you show me yours.
Exactly. I'll show you my portfolio if you show me yours. Right. So you can take very classic, funny statements and make them into playful, joking, teasing answers. One of the things that we always suggest our clients do, and it works, 90% of the time, when they want to get a man on a Zoom call, a phone call, or get them from a phone call to a date, we will have them say, what's a girl like me got to do to get a phone call from a guy like you? Or what's a girl like me got to do to get a date with a guy like you? And so that is a very playful, provocative way of getting a man, to take the lead, and also letting him know that you're playful. It's a very, very playful, teasing kind of, response.
And playfulness and banter and laughing is so important on a date, because if you're looking for a life partner, whether it's a life partner, marriage, whatever it may look like, and the other person is also, you're both looking for someone that you're going to enjoy life with. And that first date, or the first two dates, because sometimes the first date you're both nervous. So, but early on, you both need to know that this is someone I'm going to have fun with. And these dates, these early dates, are the entry to how someone's going to see the future.
Right. And they set the tone for the whole relationship. I just finished watching a Netflix series called One Day, and it was there were so many wonderful things about that show. I highly recommend it, although it's a real tearjerker. But the relationship between the two lead characters, the romantic relationship, is so beautiful, so nuanced, and the two leads are outstanding. But what was beautiful was, from the very beginning, their playfulness, how much they laughed, that playful connection that is something that is so beautiful to find. And they were friends for, probably 75% of the relationship. They just remained dear friends, but the humor was always there. And you saw the male lead and her as well having other relationships, but they weren't laughing with those other people. They were not laughing. It wasn't playful. And they were always drawn to each other because they got each other. They could be themselves together. They didn't have to put on a pretense or be serious all the time. And they just really got each other. And there was a way that they let their guard down around each other.
And there's a connection, because I think all of us want to be with a partner that if we're at the party, and the partner's on the other side of the room, we just give a look. And
we know what the other one's thinking.
And you both start laughing because it's that connection of humor and understanding combined.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful thing. So you have to test that. And sometimes, like with our date, and I remember a very dear girlfriend of mine who's now married. She's been married for a long, long time. And she called me after her first date with this man. And she said, I really liked him, but he was so serious. And I just, she laughed a lot. She's very playful. She has a lightness of being. And he is a heavier person, by nature. But I just told her about our first date. And I said, Benjamin was quite serious on our first date. And he's the funniest person I've ever met in my life. So we've even gone out to dinner with a well-known comic, a very well-known comedian. And you were the one that was making all the jokes at the table.
And we sat next to two famous comedians.
Oh my God, they were not funny at all.
We were laughing, having a great time.
Oh my God.
I mean, these are about as famous of comedians as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And there was nothing funny about
them. No. And the funniest thing was Benjamin was parking the car and I went in early, and this was one of those Hollywood or, West Hollywood restaurants where the tables were, about 2 inches apart. And I thought I was doing such a beautiful, graceful job of sliding in between these tables. And then little did my purse, my handbag, my shoulder bag, I guess, swung forward and knocked the champagne. The glass of champagne onto this comedian's lap. And it was so funny. And then I looked up and I saw who it was. And then I looked over at the person sitting across from him. And I was like, oh my God, of all the people. Right. But yeah, they were so serious. It was really
very kind.
But, no, very kind, very understanding, but not funny. Yeah, not funny at all. So, you don't have to be a comedian. I know I'm not. I don't consider myself witty, although once in a while we have a bedspread that's seen better days.
Right. Because we have a 120-pound dog and a 65-pound dog.
Well, and it also got washed in the washing machine when it was supposed to be dry cleaned. Right. So, but we've had it for about 7 or 8 years, I think. Yeah, but it's beautiful. And now it's like really coming apart. We've ordered a new one. We're just waiting for it to arrive. But one day recently our Shar-Pei jumped up on it. And I said, everybody on the bed, which is what we say to our dogs. And then this time I said, everybody on the shred, which was very funny because the whole thing is shredded. Right. But that would be my 1-year joke.
Oh, you come up with them. You
once in a while, but nothing like you. Nothing like you.
The bottom line is that humor builds connection, and it could build it in the first few seconds. just with a smile, a laugh, leaning forward, a wink, just how we interact with the waiter or waitress that comes to the table.
Yeah. We have a new woman in our mastermind. And the thing with her is that while she's not funny, she has this twinkle in her eye and laughter in her
Right.
voice. And it's magical. There's something quite magical about her.
There is.
Yeah, and allure, like a man would be so drawn to that. It's almost like I said to her the other day that she has a little bit of a Julia Child, playfulness in her voice and in her tone and her that glint in her eye.
Right. Julia Child was funny, but she wasn't classically funny. I mean, she didn't tell jokes. She didn't do practical jokes. She lived fun.
Yeah, she really did.
And that's what a man would love to see in a woman. Someone who doesn't just come up with jokes, but who lives fun. And it doesn't mean that life is going to be superficial, but it means that deeper things could be spoken about freely, and whether it's heavy or lightly. But if you know that there can be humor there, and it's not just all heavy, heavy, heavy. Like you could just imagine people reading the New York Times or see Fox News or MSNBC, whatever it may be, and then they just talk about all the horrible things. Or we can just kind of it's not going to change anything, so we could just make things a little bit lighter. Like if there's a politician that we're not fond of, we just will say, he's adorable. I mean, we could say so many other things, but it just lightens the room, and everyone knows what we mean,
right?
But it's just a lightness of being.
Yep.
And it makes the day brighter.
Well, and there's so much in life that we don't have control over.
Yeah.
But we do have control over how we choose to see things and how we choose to be with each other. One thing I do want to talk about is that sometimes women will say to us, oh, but I'm so playful and I'm so, I can go head to head and toe to toe with these guys. And we have a woman that we're working with, and she is an amazing, amazing woman. There's so many just incredible things about her, but there is something that is not quite working for her in her dating life. And I was on a call with her a few days ago, last week, and we were talking about her kind of playfulness, her brand of playfulness. And some very successful masculine women can be quite savvy and witty and all, but there's not a sweetness, there's not a femininity in the way that they play. It almost feels like a competition. Well, I can one up you. I can, I can go head to head and toe to toe with you.
This may be an esoteric reference because it's long before most of our times, but the Algonquin, the table at the Algonquin Hotel with like Dorothy Parker and some of the others that were incredibly, I mean, they would come up with the most amazing quotes, that are requoted to this day. But were they fun people? Would you want to actually have dinner with them? Or just sit down and have a meal with them? Probably not.
Right. Or you could be like intelligentsia and be witty, on that level. Do like we were watching that Truman Capote, film. We had to turn it off, but it was mean-spirited, but which should have expected, by the way. But there's this level of wit and whatever that can be superior, that isn't necessarily funny. And you have to be, by the way, extremely careful. Like, it is good to use a bit of like teasing or challenges, but you don't, you can challenge a man like in a playful way. You can tease a man playfully, but you have to be very careful that it's not shaming or cutting or mean, and or demeaning. And some women can also think that they're being witty or playful, and it's really mean. It's not, so it's very, very important. I was talking to this woman because she's in our mastermind, and I was talking to her about all of the women in our mastermind who have found the guardians of their souls. And I was listing off all of the women who, have been successful. And we all know the women who have been challenged and have not found the guardians of their souls, and the ones who have. And what all the women who had found their soulmates, the guardians of their souls, all of those women were feminine, they were sweet, they were playful, there was a kindness, there was a girlishness about them. And that was so attractive. Even the most successful, outgoing, wheeler dealer, once she let go of some of that, that facade and really stepped into her feminine nature, she wound up with the most wonderful man. She stopped trying to seal the deal, and she just really allowed this man to come forward. And, it took him a while. With some of these men that the women are with, not all of them, but some of them, some of them have been very damaged and wounded in their relationships with women who were not nice to them, who were not kind. And so it took, almost like you used the analogy of like a stray, like a wounded, like a stray dog, or what was it that you used? Where they, she had to give him a chance just to feel safe with her, again. And then once he did, now it's like they are the most adorable. She's a very outwardly, this one woman I'm thinking of is a very affectionate, outgoing, public displays of affection kind of woman. And he wasn't. And now he's coming, she brought him to life, and he's, really loving it. And he said, look, I appreciate you being so patient, but she's so playful that she's really coaxed him out.
I want to go back on something that you touched upon, is that humor shouldn't be shameful for men, because there could be a lot of funny things that could be shaming. And a guy isn't going to remember the humor. He's going to remember being shamed, being belittled. And so whether it's a nickname or just kind of making fun of if he dropped his fork on the floor, at the restaurant, or whatever it may have been, that we have to be very careful about not shaming each other with our humor.
Right. And especially in front of other people.
Oh, especially. Oh, my goodness. And it would be a deal breaker to do it in front of colleagues. Or,
teasing a man about something that you think is cute, especially in front of other people, would be humiliating for a man.
And sometimes humor could come from anger.
Yeah.
And so it could be kind of sharp humor. So, there's a big difference between that and playfulness. And
you always want to lift your guy up in front of other people. And really, like, you want other men to be walking away saying, wow, I
Mhm.
wish my wife talked about me that way. Yeah. Well, I think that we covered it.
And had fun doing it.
I don't know what else to say. I think that we need to have fun when you are light and play. When you can show a man that you're light and playful, it shows a man your personality.
Yeah.
It shows him the kind of woman you are and what he's signing up for.
Mm.
And trust me, one of the things I knew when I met you was that I was going to mess up. I just knew that. And so I decided that I was just going to give myself permission to do that and to give you permission to be
Yeah.
human. And that was so much easier than trying to hold myself to this ideal and be perfect and, or to hold you to some ideal.
And there were moments where, let's say that you messed up, just for
Like,
sake of argument.
like I never really have, but
Yeah.
in those,
If there's humor, it was actually to lighten the situation,
yeah.
not to shame. So, where both of us laugh and suddenly it's not sweating the small stuff.
Yeah, there's a sweetness to
Yeah.
that. There really is. And, it creates beautiful memories. That's why when I write down those jokes that you make, I also write down this, I try to write down the situation, like where we were
Right.
when that joke was made, like on Holbox Island or on, out to dinner on Valentine's Day. I'll give you all a great example of Benjamin's humor. One of my favorite jokes was that we were at Valentine's Day at this beautiful restaurant in Los Angeles. It was very early on, maybe our first Valentine's Day together. And there was a fixed price menu. And the waiter, I was not drinking alcohol at that time. And Benjamin, it was a fixed price dinner that came with endless champagne.
Right.
And the waiter came to the table with the bottle of champagne to refill our glasses. And I was having sparkling water, so you couldn't tell if it was champagne or what. And he went to fill my glass, and Benjamin put his hand over it and said, "No, I'm going to get her hydrated and take her home and take advantage of her." And I just thought, okay, this is my guy. Or we had Bernie's Mountain Dog, our very first one. We're on our third now, or fourth.
Third, and with Annie, who I had.
Well,
before.
Jonah,
Cosmo. Oh,
our fourth
Yeah.
Bernie's Mountain Dog. But this was Jonah, and Jonah had a habit of, like some dogs, drinking out of the toilet. And I actually, Benjamin trained him to do this before I was on the scene. But we were just hanging out together, and Jonah got up and was heading toward the bathroom. And Benjamin looked at him and said, "Jonah, don't you want to talk to your sponsor before you take that first drink?" So just like that, he's, brought such humor into our lives, into my life. And this has been just, this relationship, these last almost 22 years have been more fun than any two people could ever have hoped for or imagined. And it has been truly the icing on this, the cake, and has made this relationship so, so, so beautiful. So I would wish rom-com conversations for every single one of you. We send you our love. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Please come back and see us. I have another broadcast called Finding the Guardian of Your Soul, and I do Getting Inside the Right Male Mind with Benjamin. You will find all of this under our podcast, Finding the Guardian of Your Soul. So all of these episodes are there. You can send your ideas for future broadcasts to podcast at lisashield.com. And you can also book a call with a member of my team. You can do that by going to lisashield.com/reserve. And that will take you to my booking page. So if you want to talk to a member of our team about how we can help you find one of these, we can help you do that. We've done it for thousands of women, and we can do this for you too. If you have not watched my my presentation, I have a free 45-minute presentation, and you can see that by going to lisashield.com and clicking the button all over the page. You can also find all of our podcast episodes on that on my website, as well as success stories from hundreds of our clients on our success stories page. We teach a 6-month course. It is amazing. We will change your lives. I do not think there is a better program out there. So please check us out if you really want to get this solved. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Lisa Shield.
And I'm Benjamin Shield.
And we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.